Ooh. Ah. Well, you get the gist. Hello and welcome to another Impact Gamers Clinic, where we'll look at someone's problems and try and solve it with Clickteam Fusion. So, I found scrawled on a wall,
"Help me! I want fireworks!" By Tina.
Well, obviously, Tina, we heard your cry and we're here to sort it out. And we'll use Clickteam Fusion Free Edition and show you 3 different ways, an easy, medium and a complex way of getting your fireworks night to go off with a bang. So, here's one I prepared earlier. Let's look at the easy solution. And just to remind you, you can download this file and have a look at these solutions and edit them yourself from www.impactgamers.net/clinic2. In this frame, I'll now demonstrate, we've just used particles and just one line of code to make an explosion happen every second. So here we go. Okay, it gets the effect across. It's not amazingly realistic, but very simple to do. What we've got is we've got a particle emitter called firework. So I'll just demonstrate what I did. I got my particle physics down and I added in a physics engine. You need to insert a physics engine into a world to allow physics to take place. Now, if I just run that as is, you'll see it just runs a lot of rainbows. But if I click on it twice, I can then delete the ones I want rid of. So say if I want a greeny blue firework, I'm going to select these frames by holding shift and clicking and delete those and delete these. Well, actually I'll leave that one in and delete these. Shift and click and delete on the keyboard. Now it cycles through these as an animation, but so if we play that, they're too big. They're too big for fireworks. You might want big fireworks, but I'm going to have them a bit smaller. And so to change their size, I can't change the size here to change the size of the emitter. That's not going to do anything. I need to actually change it in the images. So I'm going to drop it down to 14 and do it proportional and stretch and resample. So it does all 14, apply, 14, apply. I don't know a quick way of doing this, so just going to do it with these few. Great. Now, if you look at the hotspot, it's now off center, but if I hold down Alt on the keyboard, the ALT, and click, it will do the same recentering on the quick move of all of them. Okay, so we now have something which is a little bit more fireworky. Now, fireworks don't respond to gravity as much as that, so I'm going to just go down and change their gravity factor to something much lower, like 20, and have a quick look at that. I'm happier with that. Great. And then the way that you get them to disappear is this scale option down here. And I'm going to change that to minus 3. Let's see how that goes. Okay, but it needs to happen much faster. Let's try minus 12. There we go. So there's the effect, but how do you get it to trigger? Let's just look at the little bit of code. First of all, we make sure that they're not created from the start of the frame. So the code every 1 second, so we just use the timer option, so let's use this and say that every less than a second, let's go for every 3/4 of a second. And we created 30 particles and moved that to a random position. So there's only one of these at a time. And I'm just going to drag that diagonally down to do the same. Create 30 particles, set it to a random position, and then I just played a firework sound as well. So just to go into that set X position, set Y position, the create particles as well is just here. To create particles, just choose a number. I could set it to a random number if I wanted, a random range. And then this set position is done just because I set a random range between 0 and then select all of that, the frame width. And then I do the same with the Y coordinate and frame height so that it moves it around randomly. So if I run the frame, beautiful fireworks. There we go. And it's not, there's only 3 objects. It's not using too much memory. There we go. So that's the easy solution done with, and you can have a play with that, and I'll resave that file so you can have a look at that at the end. The medium solution. So let's run that frame to show it. Now, currently, not much memory, but wait till it loads the object. There we go, look at that. Lots of memory being used. Not many objects, because each firework is in fact the same thing. So we have one object which gets put in randomly. The code, still only one line, is that every 1/100th of a second, there's one chances out of 200. So that's created by saying a new condition, a timer, every, and then just 1/100th of a second, or however often you want the randomness to be. And then right click on those words and insert, and that's where we use X chances out of Y. So if we say that there's a 1 in 100 chance, that's going to happen twice as often as that, but still randomly. Okay, I'll get rid of that. What we do is we play a sample of fireworks, but we also set the frequency of the sample to be random between 10,000 and 200,000. I think actually that might not be working as it should be, because the maximum is 100,000 there. So anyway, I'm not sure that this is working at all. But anyway, I wanted a different sound, a different speed of it playing through. But that I don't believe is working. So let's ignore that for the moment. And if you can fix that, you can let me know in the comments. Right, we create one of these firework explosions and just place it outside of the frame. And then we set it to destroy itself, and I'll show you why in a moment. We set its scale to be between 1 and 8 and times it by 0.1. That means because a scale of 1 is 100%, so a scale of 8 is 80%. Now, so it's between 10 and 80%, and I've times it by 0.1 because Clickteam Fusion can be a little bit annoying if you divide by 10. If you divide by 10 and end with a fraction, sometimes a non-whole number, it loses it. So the trick is to times it by a point of a number or divide it by 10.0. Either will do the same, but add that 0.0 so it handles it as a floating number, a number which can have a decimal point. Right. Then we do the same with the X and the Y position, and then we set the RGB coefficient. That's the red, green, blue coefficient. How much red, how much green, and how much blue is in it to be random between 128 and 255. Now, this is a bit weird, so let me just go through doing it again. When you set an RGB coefficient, you need to write get RGB to have a little function, which then you type numbers in. The amount of red, up to 255 for maximum. The amount of green, 255 for maximum, and blue 255, and that'll be white, and that's all based around color mixing of red, green, blue, and you'll have to look around some YouTube videos of that to explain it. But 1 to 8 would be half, and if I did 1 to 8, 1 to 8, 1 to 8, which that would be a grey. So grey is the dullest, but then they're all choosing a random number between 1 to 8 and 255, between half and the maximum, to color mix something brighter. And that happens. So let's look at the actual object, because that's where the cleverness happened. There is actually no animation for stop, there's only disappearing. And disappearing is an animation that plays when something is destroyed. So that's why I created something and immediately destroyed it. I could have it play through a stopped animation, and then when I got to the end of the animation, destroy. But it's just a bit easier just to destroy it. So if we have a look at this, there we go. It looks pretty ugly, okay? What it is it's a cutout of a firework explosion with a black background. But the black background wasn't pure black from the way it got saved, and so it's not a clean cut. But this is something called luma keying, working with something called an alpha channel. Now, what I did is I went onto YouTube and I found from Solid Ghost 1, from Peter Yang. He published some firework keys and published an alpha pack that I downloaded, and so he's got 11 fireworks. Oh, it's loud, it's like we're in the club, yeah. So anyway, 11 different clips, bloody blah, and there we go, there's the one I used, number 2, but there's got different ones that fall like this. And then he shows how to add it into some kind of Call of Duty style game. Right, so I downloaded that. It gave me a whole load of movie files. I needed to make them as... I didn't want to cut out each individual frame, but Clickteam allows us to import GIF animations, the GIF ones, the ones that, you know, get shown on Facebook with funny little birthday messages and stuff. And the GIMP, the graphics manipulation program, allows you, if you download a plugin called Gap, to do it. So although I put this as the medium option, this is quite tricky. Apologies about that. It was someone asking if it was time for my oven to be professionally cleaned, and no, it's not. It's time for me to finish this video. So I put this down as the medium video, but it's quite technical if you want to get your own fireworks in. But if you just want to use the file that I created, then you can just import the fireworks explosion. You can just copy and paste it into yours, or you can use the library toolbar to load it in. So I imported it in, and when I imported it in as a GIF, I just ticked that that it's an animation, and so it loaded all the frames, and I picked the transparent colour to be the background colour. So I quite like this solution. It uses a load of memory, which might not matter, but it also allows randomness to happen. We could have done this in the first one and had it create the particle emitters, but then would have to handle destroying them, so we didn't get loads of them. Now moving on to the complex solution, I will show you the beauty of this. Ooh. Ah. Ooh. Ah. Well, you get the gist. Right. So, in this solution, we've actually got several different active objects. We've got a firework, which is the thing that launches, the bang, which is like the explosion, and then the glow, which is all the sparkly bits after. And we've got a physics engine to make things happen, and just a nice backdrop, which I locked to the background. So you can lock things in place by right-clicking and choosing lock, and to unlock them you have to hold Control and Shift and click in order to move them. But locking is great. It means that when something is locked, it can't be selected, which means that you can never mess about with things you don't want to. Right, just before we have a look at the events, I want to look at the customization of each firework. So each firework has alterable values set with size of bang, which is how many bang glows come off, the red, green and blue numbers, and a countdown for how long it takes to launch, and then this falling angle, which gets calculated by the computer. There's an alterable string to say what type of explosion it loads, and then there's some flags, some sort of ons, offs. Is it lit? Is it launched? Is it exploding? Now I've done all that so you could customize it, so you could have different firework objects. So if I just clone this and have firework 2, we could have firework 2 there, and we could say that the size of the bang is much bigger, 200 than the other ones, that it's only going to be red. So let's just put it as, well, let's make it a lighter red. Let's just add up those colours so it's not so dark. Let's say it only takes a 1/10 of a second before launching, and there we go. And we'll change the colour of it so we know which one we're looking at. Let's make it pink. But also we will we'll just need to light it to start off so that it goes off first. We'll redo that. Okay, I've corrected the code. Yay! And there's a lovely firework. Right, okay, let's look at the code. I'm going to delete that so that it simplifies things. Let's look at the code. So, at the start of the frame, I just assigned some random size and red, green, blues, and the amount of time it takes to launch the rockets. Now, like I just showed there, you could set these manually and have different types of rockets to get different types of effects. We need to choose when they're lit. So I've just got every second it's going to pick a rocket at random, and I put them in a group. So this firework is all part of the rocket group, and it will set the lit to on. Every second we'll create a new firework just so that they don't all get used up, and set these random things again, and a random position and a random angle thrown into it as well. So those 3 rules aren't vital. You can have them lit from the beginning or have a different trigger to light them, sort of when you click on them, turn lit to on. But every 100th of a second, if they are lit, we want to subtract 1 from the countdown. And if the countdown gets to 0 or lower and it hasn't been launched, then we want to play the whoosh And we got the frequency thing happening, but it's not working in this instant, not sure why. And then we apply an impulse. Now, an impulse is a one-off force, and that's just under movement. Physics, apply impulse, and that sets it off. And we've got an impulse between 2 and 4.5 because we've got random 20, 45 times by 0.1. So it's between 2 and 4.5. Although impulses, I think, only work on whole numbers. So I think we're really only between 2 and 4. I'll need to double check that. And launch it at the angle that it's set off at. Set it to launched, turn off being lit, and set its gravity to 100. Because importantly, if the gravity was 100 at the beginning, they'd fall off the screen. We always want to check the loop explode. We'll come to that. We always want to set the angle of the rocket to whatever movement angle it's going, which is called velocity angle. We always want to set a variable in the bangs and the glows of faded to be its alpha coefficient, and that's between 0 and 255, and that is how see-through something is, an alpha coefficient. We'll get to that in a second. So if it starts falling, if the rocket's angle is less than 180, less than 360 and greater than 180, so imagine a clock face, and 3 o'clock would be 0 degrees, 12 o'clock would be 90 degrees, 9 o'clock this way would be, I could probably even show you. Here we go. So imagine this is 0 degrees, 90 degrees, that would be 180 degrees, and that would be 270 degrees, which it is. So if it is between this angle, which is greater than that, and less than that, then it's falling. The rocket's falling. So we want to create an explosion where it is. And what we do is we create an explosion based around what its ultrapulse string is. And it's called bang. So it creates the bang one because it's written there. So it creates that one. And we'll set exploding on. Now, if you've got bang, now it's hard to see it. One quick trick to see something is to change its icon. So let's just write a B on this for bang. So if we change the icon, it doesn't change anything else, but it allows us to see. There you go. If bang is overlapping the rockets and the rocket is exploding, we play the explosion, and once again with the frequency, which currently isn't working, let's not worry about that. We destroy the rocket, but we also set the RGB coefficient to be based off the rocket and set the size of bang to be based off the rocket. Now, the order of that, if I double click in the event list editor, you destroy the rocket last. You get the information from the rocket it's overlapping before destroying it. Okay. Then every 100th of a second, this is really a complex solution, so sorry if you are watching this and you're not understanding a thing, just go back to the easy solution. So every 100th second, we want to set the alpha blending coefficient of whatever the bang is to be its current alpha blending coefficient plus 10. So we did that by saying effect set the alpha blending coefficient, how see-through it is, and set it to be whatever its alpha blending coefficient is, and then plus 10. So it's fading by 10 each time up to 255 but when it goes totally see-through. And then on every 100th of a second we take some of the life of the glow. Now I've got a never rule here we'll come back to, but on loop explode, so always run loop explode 100 times. So 100 times between each frame it's running this, and if the size of the bang is greater than 0, then we want to create one of the bang glows. We want to take one off the size of the bang, and then we want to apply a force to it, push it outwards. We want to set its color to match the bang that it's coming off, and we want to set its scale to be in between 0.3 and 0.7. And scale's really good. It can handle really small decimals. So just to vary it up, so not all the sparks are the same size. And every 100th of a second, if the life of bang is less than 0, then it starts to fade. So if its life starts off at 20, so within 2/10ths of a second it will start to fade. So every 1 second, if it's been around for a 2/10ths of a second, it will start fading away and it will get smaller. We'll set the scale to be 0.993, which was a nice amount of size. So if you watch, they will explode, start to fade and start to get smaller, and they'll also fall because of gravity, because we've applied the force that we've applied is just an impulse, one-off force. If any of the groups of glow, which is bang and bang glow, if they're faded beyond 255, then we'll destroy them, and that's the ultra ball value. That's just taken from the ultra ball value that they've stored. Both of them have got an ultra ball value called faded, and if they're outside the play area, we'll destroy them as well. So let's have a quick look at that again. Now, word of advice, it's not perfect, this code. I'm just trying to show you some principles. Sometimes the object count gets out of control. We get over 1,000 objects and the whole thing goes a bit skewy. It works 99% of the time, but occasionally you have a few fireworks going off at the same time and the whole system gets thrown. This isn't a fantastic solution, but hopefully it allows you to understand how to make something a bit more photorealistic and something more beautiful in Clickteam Fusion. So download the files from impactgamers.net/clinic2 and have a very happy fireworks night.